YouTube today. I was just thinking about this idea of friction in creative work and how, for me, it's really important to have as little friction as possible. So, for example, when my YouTube videos error out and they don't upload directly off my phone, it introduces friction. The friction screws things up because then I have to wait for Dropbox to sync, and I have to make sure my Dropbox syncing is working, and then I've got to upload to YouTube from my desktop, and then I have to write another description. I have to do all of these other steps, and I'm lazy and I like things to be easy. So when this happens, I lose some of my creative wherewithal for even doing the work. I thought of this again because I'm out here in the woods and I'm photographing these dense green landscapes that I like to shoot. And I was thinking about introducing a titling system or a catalog number for them. So it's possible with these landscapes that I could have a catalog that is something like 082216-0822.5, because I think I posted 5 images already today. The problem is that later, if I dig back into the same group of photos, which I only edit in Instagram, then I have to go and find the corresponding photo in my library and figure out what day it was in order to catalog it, which isn't terrible. But then it makes me think like, oh, well, maybe I should be taking all these photos, putting them in folders on my computer, and then having them all there, which for another person is completely reasonable. For the way that I work, which requires impulse, discovery, and playfulness, and a lack of friction, that could potentially keep me from posting images on a daily basis, which to me is a value, and it's an important aspect of how I work. It's actually taken me a long time to realize how important a lack of friction is in the way that I work. Yesterday, I almost downloaded one of those apps that lets you tile photos. And as I was reading the instructions, I thought, too much friction. It is very important to me to eliminate all friction from the process. So even the fact that I'm getting to a point where I start to debate whether I need a better camera, well, then I'd have to get a new camera, and I'd have to go buy a camera, and then I'd have to carry around a camera instead of just carrying around my phone. Friction. I don't want to do that. One thing to look at, if you're a person who maybe struggles with procrastination, or you think you struggle with procrastination, is whether you have a friction problem. And can you find the thing that stops you from making, from publishing, from sharing, from creating, whatever part of it that has basically a pause button put on it? Can you find that, and can you get rid of it? So for me, it might come down to the labeling system will not work, because in order for it to work, I have to change the process. And if I change the process, that will introduce a level of friction that will get in the way of working. For other people, that is a non-issue, and they maybe have friction somewhere else, or maybe friction doesn't matter to them. But for me, it's a huge issue. I don't work where there's friction. It stops me. It de-incentivizes me from getting things done. I used to chalk this up to procrastination. I'm now just realizing that the way my creative process is, it is entirely about impulse and play. And when anything else has to get in the way of that, it potentially derails all my projects and screws them up. So to recap, if you think you have a procrastination problem, maybe investigate whether you have a friction problem, and then either deprogram yourself to where the friction doesn't bother you, or eliminate the friction, even if that means you may have to eliminate a certain amount of quality from your work. My biggest philosophy over maybe the last year has become embrace reality and work where you're at. Where I'm at is I take photos on my lunch break. Where I'm at is I take photos on my camera. I don't want to buy a camera. It would introduce a new problem. I'm positive that if I bought a camera, at least at this point in time, I would not venture out into this brush and take photos as often as I do now. That is an important thing for me to recognize, and that embracing that has made me massively more productive and more creatively gratified than I've ever been. Before, all my projects had friction. They required tools, they required space, they required ideas, they required other people, they required all of these things, all these levels of friction that ultimately don't jive with the particular way that I work. And so the important thing to do is to recognize that, because I'm not compromising or changing. So the answer then is kill every point of friction possible. All right, thanks a lot for watching.